270,000. That's how many teachers have walked out of American classrooms since 2020. That is not a shortage, that is an exit. I'm Ryan Treadway. I'm an educator. I've spent my entire career inside public schools. And the question I keep coming back to is the one almost no one is asking. Where did they go? Today I want to walk through three things. The myth we keep being told, the places teacher actually went when they left, and what it means for the kids sitting in the classrooms they left behind. We've all heard the phrase, teacher shortage. The story is that there aren't enough people who want to teach, that young people are picking other careers, that schools just need to recruit harder. Here's the problem with that story. It's not what the data shows. Schools of education are still graduating teachers, districts are still hiring, the pipeline exists. What is not happening is people staying. That is not a shortage, that is an exit. And there is a difference. A shortage means we did not produce enough. An exit means we produced them, trained them, hired them, and watched them walk out the door. When you call something the wrong name, you treat it the wrong way. We keep recruiting harder for a problem that is not about recruitment. So the first thing I want to do is just rename it. This is a teacher exit. Let's start there. The second thing is where they actually went. When you start paying attention, the patterns get clear fast. Teachers don't disappear when they leave a classroom. They land somewhere, and the places they land tell us a lot about what the job is actually missing. A lot of them went into corporate training. The skills transfer almost directly. Curriculum design becomes onboarding design. Classroom management becomes facilitation. The pay is roughly double. A lot of them went into education technology. The companies selling software back into schools are largely staffed by former teachers. They are now writing the tools their colleagues are required to use. A lot of them went into real estate. That one is less obvious, but the hours are flexible, the income is uncapped, and the rejection part of the job is something teachers have already practiced for years. And a lot of them went home to raise their own children, to take care of an aging parent, to take a season to recover from something the job took out of them. These are not lazy people. These are not unmotivated people. These are some of the most disciplined, most credentialed, most service-driven people in the American workforce. And they decided the math no longer worked. Same skills, different room, better outcome for them. Same job, less of everything for the kids they left. The third thing is the part nobody wants to talk about, the reasons. There are three reasons that show up over and over. Anyone who has talked to a teacher who left has heard them. The first is pay. That one is obvious. A teacher with 10 years of experience makes less in many states than a first-year tech recruiter. We've covered this on the channel before. The second is autonomy. Teachers describe being told what to teach, when to teach it, how to teach it, and which test the lesson must align with. They went into the profession to think. They left because the room for thinking kept shrinking. The third is respect. And this one is harder to measure, but easier to feel. They describe being blamed for outcomes shaped by housing, hunger, and family stress they did not create and could not control. They describe parents treating them like opponents instead of partners. They describe administrators treating them like liabilities instead of professionals. Pay you can fix with a budget, autonomy you can fix with policy. Respect is harder. Respect is culture, and cultural problems take longer to turn around than budget problems. So the question becomes, who is replacing them? In a lot of districts, the answer is emergency credentials. People with no teaching background placed in front of a classroom with a few weeks of training because the room can't stay empty. In other districts, the answer is long-term substitutes. Same teacher all year, no certification, no benefits, half the pay. In some districts, the answer is technology, AI tutoring, online modules, larger classes with one teacher managing more screens. None of these are villains. They are all rational responses to an exit nobody wanted to admit was happening. But here's what they share: none of them are the same as a credentialed, experienced teacher who knows your kid's name and watches them every day. Same classroom, different person at the front of it, and the kids notice. This is the cost of the exit. It does not show up in the budget line, it shows up in the kids. It shows up when a class goes through 3 teachers in one subject in one school year. It shows up when students stop bothering to learn a substitute's name because there will be another one next month. It shows up when a senior asks for a letter of recommendation and the only adult left to write it does not know them well enough to say something true. These are not theoretical. These are happening in American schools right now, and the kids notice. Now, here's the part that matters for this channel. The people writing the policies that push teachers out are almost never the people who watched it happen. They are not in the room when the long-term sub gets handed a roster. They are not in the room when a teacher decides it was the last week. They are not in the room when a kid asks where their old teacher went. National leadership is being shaped by people who study schools from the outside, and the gap between what they see and what teachers live keeps growing. This is not an accident, it is by design, and I think we can change it. If 270,000 teachers tried to tell us something with their feet, the least we can do is read what they wrote. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If the people writing education policy had spent 10 years inside a public school, do you think the policy would look the same? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every one. If this is your first time here, I'm Ryan Treadway. This channel is built on a simple idea. National leadership should be shaped by people who have actually served students, families, and communities. We're going to keep digging into that. Real stories, real policy, questions that don't have easy answers. Describe if you want to be part of the conversation. See you in the next one.